There's no doubt about it. Starship Flight 11 is truly the greatest achievement for SpaceX so far. As the final launch before the seamless transition to Starship version 3 and the complete upgrade of Launch Pad 1, the company prepared for this mission with incredible precision, and the results speak for themselves. Booster 15 performed flawlessly, so well that if it had been configured for a Mechazilla catch this time, it likely would have succeeded. Meanwhile, Ship 38 not only fixed all the issues seen in Flight 10, but went far beyond that in almost every way. So, how exactly did this incredible flight unfold? Let's find out in today's episode of Alpha Tech. I love Elon Musk and this incredible team. Go SpaceX. Those were the heartfelt, powerful words from COO Gwynne Shotwell, dedicated to her boss and the entire Starship team she's been proudly working alongside. It was her way of celebrating what's being called the most impressive Starship flight of 2025, Flight 11. Elon Musk, unable to hide his excitement, simply said, "Great work by the SpaceX team." The joy even reached NASA, where Acting Administrator Sean Duffy congratulated SpaceX on the remarkable achievement, stating, "The progress SpaceX demonstrated with today's Starship test is critical for our Artemis missions." And indeed, there's a reason this flight is being praised as the most successful of the year. The atmosphere at Starbase said it all. A massive crowd of fans had gathered after work, their cheers echoing through the night as they watched the tense, heart-pounding moments unfold alongside the SpaceX team. Elon Musk himself was there too, smiling, relaxed, chatting with the livestream hosts. He knew this wasn't just another test flight. Every maneuver, every calculation had been fine-tuned for perfection. This was a special mission, one that marked a new chapter in the Starship story. When the countdown hit T-minus 40 seconds, everyone held their breath. This is the moment that usually decides whether the launch proceeds or faces a short hold, but not this time. The conditions for Ship 38 and Booster 15 had never been better. The clock kept ticking smoothly.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The rocket roared to life as the water deluge system blasted hundreds of thousands of gallons of water per minute to dampen the extreme heat and shock waves from the 33 Raptor 2 engines, protecting the launch pad. And here's the most incredible part. All 33 engines fired at 100% thrust, with 0 failures. Even more impressive, 24 of those engines were reused, and every single one of them performed flawlessly. The vehicle's speed climbed rapidly, surpassing 1,000 kilometers per hour within the very first minute of flight before reaching max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure at an altitude of about 7 kilometers. This is the moment when the booster endures the greatest stress from the combination of high velocity and thick atmosphere, and yet it passed through effortlessly. Quite the irony for something called super heavy. But wait, something seemed off when the camera switched to Starship's onboard view. At T plus 1 minute 13 seconds, a small corner of the black thermal protection tile appeared to peel slightly away. Thankfully, it stayed firmly attached and didn't cause any issues. By T plus 2 minutes 20 seconds, Booster 15 began venting liquid oxygen to chill the common dome, a process that takes about 20 seconds to prevent thermal shock during stage separation. Moments later, the separation was perfectly executed. The booster then ignited its engines for the boost-back burn, tilting slightly to increase drag and slow its descent as it started the journey back to Earth. However, during the reignition sequence, one of the 13 center engines failed to light. This kind of issue is actually quite common, and not a big deal. After all, the booster has 33 engines, and the others can easily compensate. That's exactly why SpaceX prefers using many smaller engines instead of a few massive ones, like NASA's Saturn V did. Since this was Booster 15's second flight, all eyes were on it. At T plus 4 minutes 30 seconds, the livestream switched to a ground camera tracking the booster as it fell almost side by side with the hot staging ring, roughly 80 kilometers above Earth. At that point, the vehicle was descending incredibly fast, forcing it to vent excess propellant to reduce mass, keeping only the fuel necessary for landing. By 6 minutes, 13 seconds after the flight, flames lit up once again. All 13 center Raptor engines successfully reignited to slow the descent. Even the engine that had failed earlier came back online, proving just how well SpaceX optimized this vehicle. Moments later, the engines throttled down to 5, then to 3, holding the booster almost perfectly steady in midair for a few seconds. This maneuver was a stability test designed to simulate a soft landing on Mechazilla's arms. And honestly, Booster 15 nailed it. If it had been configured for a tower catch, it likely would have succeeded. But since this was the second reused booster in the Starship program, that SpaceX chose not to take that risk. Compared to Booster 14 on Flight 9, which exploded seconds after initiating its landing burn, this was a massive leap forward, solidifying Starship as the first rocket system in history with true full reusability potential. After burning through the remaining fuel, Booster 15 went into free fall and boom! It exploded upon impact with the ocean. But this wasn't an accident. The destruction was entirely planned. If it hadn't been, the crowd watching live from Starbase wouldn't have been cheering and clapping so wildly. Now, it's time to turn our attention to Ship 38, the final prototype of Starship version 2. The vehicle successfully ignited all 6 Raptor engines to perform the hot staging maneuver, using thrust to separate from the booster. It then continued accelerating until, at T+9 minutes, a few venting bursts occurred to release residual propellant trapped in the fuel lines, as Starship reached a speed of around 26,400 kilometers per hour. This marked the SECO phase, second engine cutoff, confirming orbital insertion at an altitude of roughly 150 kilometers. With all 6 engines shutting down simultaneously, the spacecraft entered a brief period of coasting through low Earth orbit. A few seconds later, the flaps began to move, adjusting the vehicle's attitude. When the camera switched to the flap view, it was easy to spot that several ceramic tiles in that area had fallen off, exposing the mounting holes beneath. At around 11 minutes and 10 seconds into the flight, the vehicle started showing unusual behavior. The glow near the aft section shifted from yellow to red for a few seconds before disappearing again. This wasn't the typical plasma glow, it was most likely flames escaping from one of the engines. Fortunately, no explosion occurred this time, unlike what happened during Flight 10 when a violent blast damaged Ship 37's aft flaps, tearing the structure and putting the entire vehicle at serious risk of failure. And now comes the most impressive part, Starlink deployment. Exactly 19 minutes and 50 seconds after launch, the payload bay door opened and a dummy Starlink satellite was gently released into space. It drifted away slowly, almost as if Starship were standing still, even though the vehicle was still traveling at incredible speed, 192 kilometers above Earth. This time, SpaceX once again stopped short of achieving a full orbital insertion, a bit of a shame, as Ship 38 clearly had more to give. The crowd erupted in cheers as the first mock Starlink glided away, followed by the second, third, all the way to the 8th. It took nearly 6 minutes to deploy all 8 satellites, roughly matching the pace of Flight 10. Still, it was an emotional milestone. After 9 long years of development, Starship has finally mastered the art of deploying Starlink. Congratulations, SpaceX. If you find this achievement as inspiring as we do, drop a Go SpaceX in the comments to show your support. Beyond payload deployment, SpaceX also achieved another crucial milestone. At T+37 minutes and 54 seconds, they successfully reignited one of Starship's sea-level Raptor engines in space. This kind of progress perfectly illustrates how SpaceX continues to push the boundaries of Starship's capabilities with every single flight. It gives fans even more confidence that the dream of reaching Mars is inching closer to reality, while forcing space agencies around the world to acknowledge SpaceX's unmatched mastery of operating the largest spacecraft ever built, with near-perfect precision. This test proved that the Raptor engine can reliably restart and operate under the extreme conditions of space. But here's something interesting. Why didn't they reignite a vacuum-optimized Raptor instead? The reason is simple. Starship is designed to re-enter and land on Earth, both of which require the use of sea-level Raptors for optimal performance in atmospheric conditions. By restarting a sea-level engine in space, SpaceX can gather valuable data on how it performs across both vacuum and atmospheric environments. This kind of progress shows how SpaceX never stops improving Starship after every flight, and one day, it's these small yet steady improvements that will help the vehicle finally set foot on Mars. And that fact became even clearer during Ship 38's re-entry, a sequence just as thrilling as the previous flight. Fiery red plasma streams began to wrap around the vehicle as it descended through 123 kilometers, and by 84 kilometers, the plasma had started licking against the stainless steel body. At that point, the heat was so intense it could have roasted a large chunk of meat in seconds. At T plus 52 minutes, the plasma near the tail turned purple, a mesmerizing mix of ionized nitrogen and other particles, creating that signature violet-pink hue. It's a beautiful sight, but that glow means temperatures soaring between 5,000 and 10,000 degrees Celsius. Just imagine the brutal environment those ceramic heat tiles had to endure to keep the ship safe. At T plus 58 minutes, the vehicle began rotating into an almost perfectly vertical orientation. It might have looked ordinary, but this was actually a crucial test. As SpaceX confirmed on X, Starship is executing a banking maneuver that mimics the final approach it would take while returning to Starbase for a catch on a future mission. The spacecraft maintained its structural integrity, plunging downward at nearly 1 kilometer every 10 seconds without any additional issues. As it neared the surface, the vehicle began to shake violently. Then, at just 300 meters above the ocean, it flipped belly down, reignited 2 Raptor engines, and executed a near-perfect landing burn, gently touching the water. Moments later, it tilted to one side and exploded into a fiery blast over the sea. After the flight, SpaceX quickly released the official post-mission update. As for Ship 38, it achieved its target velocity and suborbital trajectory. Beyond confirming the successful Starlink deployment, SpaceX stated that Starship re-entered Earth's atmosphere and gathered extensive data on heat shield performance as it was intentionally stressed to test the vehicle's limits. During the final minutes of the 58-minute flight, as we witnessed, Starship performed a controlled banking maneuver to simulate the return trajectory it will follow on future missions back to Starbase. It then autonomously guided itself using its 4 aerodynamic flaps toward a designated splashdown site in the Indian Ocean, executing a flawless flip maneuver, a precise landing burn, and a soft touchdown, a perfect ending to a near-perfect flight. Yes, Starship is an incredible piece of engineering that SpaceX is still perfecting. One day, it could become the gold standard for space travel. It's gigantic, powerful, and fully reusable, with both stages capable of landing upright and ready to fly again. Even NASA has put its trust in it, quickly signing a deal with SpaceX to use Starship for sending their astronauts to the moon. And the US military, they're interested too, looking at Starship as a way to transport cargo anywhere on Earth in record time. But those are just 2 of the many missions Starship could take on in the future. It could launch massive satellite constellations, transform into an orbital station, serve as a refueling hub in space, and most importantly, carry humans to Mars to build a long-term settlement and become part of that new world. It might sound like something straight out of a sci-fi movie like Interstellar or Passengers, but SpaceX is actually trying to turn what no one has ever done before into something completely achievable, and the clearest proof of that? The rapid evolution of Starship itself. The first version, Starship V1, debuted in Flight 1 back in April 2023. Just a year and 9 months later, Starship V2 appeared during Flight 7, featuring far more refined technology and design. And now, as SpaceX moves toward version 3 later this year, the timeline has shortened even more, less than a year since V2's debut. But it doesn't stop there. Elon Musk has already revealed plans for Starship version 4, an even larger and more advanced vehicle expected in 2027. 4 major upgrades in just 5 years? That's insane. But then again, that's the kind of madness that comes from Elon Musk's dream of reaching Mars. During one of his presentations, Elon even said that Starship V3 itself would already be capable of flying to Mars.
But the one in the middle will be fully capable of doing Mars.
If this version manages to fly by the end of this year or early next year, then logically, SpaceX could attempt its first uncrewed test flight to Mars by late 2026, a true breakthrough before smoothly transitioning to version 4, which will be dedicated entirely to Mars missions. And recently, this plan has become even clearer. SpaceX quietly updated its official website, revealing that the Starship system is now targeting commercial cargo missions to the Moon by 2028 and to Mars by 2030. This timeline might make some people think that the Starship HLS has been delayed until 2028, but that's not the case. This mission refers to a specialized Starship variant optimized for lunar cargo delivery, not the human landing system. The exact goal of this cargo mission hasn't been revealed yet, but it will likely focus on building a lunar outpost while supporting NASA's plan to construct a nuclear power plant on the Moon, a move that could help the U.S. stay ahead of China and Russia, who are reportedly planning similar projects around 2030. As for the Mars mission, the year 2030 makes perfect sense. By the fourth quarter of that year, a Mars launch window will open, the moment when Earth and Mars come closest, just about 54.6 million kilometers apart. And when that happens, fleets of Starship version 4, their upper stages towering an incredible 61 meters tall, will begin their journey to Mars, carrying the first human footsteps and flags to the red planet. But here's the craziest part from the update. Each mission is priced at just $100 million per ton of payload, or about $100,000 per kilogram. That's unbelievably cheap. To put it in perspective, the most expensive cost ever recorded to launch 1 kilogram of cargo to low Earth orbit using the space shuttle was around $93,400 per kilogram. That was the peak cost during the shuttle era, between the 1980s and 2011, when the total adjusted program cost exceeded $196 billion. And remember, the ISS orbits only 400 kilometers above Earth, while Mars, at its closest, is about 136,500 times farther away. So, when you realize that sending 1 kilogram to Mars would cost roughly the same as launching it to orbit with the shuttle, that's beyond revolutionary. Now let's talk more about Starship version 4, specifically its upper stage. This beast will be equipped with 9 Raptor engines. It's not yet clear whether they'll be Raptor 3s or the next generation Raptor 4s, but personally, I'd bet on the latter. Standing 61 meters tall with a diameter of 9 meters, its fuel tanks are expected to be 20 to 25% larger than those on version 3, holding over 2,000 tons of liquid oxygen and methane combined, generating around 10,000 tons of thrust. With those incredible specs, and assuming orbital refueling that takes about 5 to 8 Starship tanker launches, Starship V4 could deliver up to 100 tons of useful cargo to the Martian surface under standard safety margins, or even 150 tons if SpaceX decides to push it to the limit. That payload includes everything from cargo landers and crew modules to heavy equipment for oxygen extraction from regolith, and robotic rovers weighing 2 to 3 tons each. The delta V required for a transfer from low Earth orbit to Mars is around 5,700 to 6,000 meters per second. Thanks to its larger propellant capacity, Starship V4 achieves roughly 20 to 30% higher delta V compared to V3, allowing it to carry heavier payloads while still landing safely. Without refueling, though, the payload would drop to just 10 to 20 tons, not practical for any major mission. Let's say SpaceX goes with the 100-ton configuration. That would mean each Mars flight costs around $10 billion in total. Of course, that's just the price for customers who want to hitch a ride and launch their payloads along with SpaceX's mission. Think of companies like Lockheed Martin, the main contractor behind NASA's Perseverance and Curiosity rovers, and a key player in the upcoming Mars sample return mission, scheduled for 2028 to 2031. They'll need a powerful launcher to send their next-generation rovers or support sample return operations. Or Northrop Grumman, another major NASA partner, responsible for building the lander systems for Perseverance and playing a crucial role in Mars sample return by providing the sample retrieval lander. These companies are already deeply invested in Mars exploration, and there's no better option than partnering with SpaceX for future missions. After all, launching their rovers aboard Starship for just a fraction of traditional costs, roughly half the price of a single Artemis mission that only takes astronauts to the Moon, something humanity achieved half a century ago, would be nothing short of revolutionary. In short, SpaceX's Mars program is expected to reach its most ambitious phase between 2030 and 2031. That could be the moment when humanity finally witnesses one of its greatest milestones, the first human steps on Mars. It would mark a new era in exploration, as human presence enables real-time decision-making, hands-on research, and the beginning of meaningful surface operations. This period will also see the first real wave of infrastructure development. With people on the ground, habitats will expand, power systems will become more reliable, and permanent facilities will start to take shape. From that point on, Mars will no longer be just a destination for robotic missions or experimental flights. It will start to become a second home. Key resources like oxygen, water, and methane fuel could be produced directly from the Martian environment, laying the foundation for a truly self-sustaining settlement. And while China's sample return mission might still be underway around that time, SpaceX could already be far ahead, with humans actively working on the surface, supported by Starship's enormous cargo capacity. That would open the door not only to deeper scientific research, but also to something we've never seen before: the possibility of sending Martian materials, or even manufactured goods, back to Earth. Once the short and medium-term goals are achieved, SpaceX's long-term vision becomes clear: to build a fully functioning city on Mars. This is where Elon Musk's bold dream takes center stage. He believes that to create a sustainable, self-sufficient settlement, humanity must send at least 1 million tons of cargo to the Martian surface. It's an enormous challenge, costly, risky, and unlike anything we've ever attempted. But when you think about it, the scale makes sense. That much infrastructure could support a population comparable to a small city like Cambridge, Massachusetts, a community capable of surviving independently from Earth, producing its own oxygen, food, and materials. To make this happen, SpaceX plans to launch fleets of Starships during every optimal transfer window, which occurs roughly once every 26 months. Musk has suggested up to 10 launches per window, each capable of carrying around 150 tons. Even at that pace, it would take at least a decade to reach the million-ton target. But considering the realities of delays and technical complexity, a more realistic time frame is 20 to 30 years, something Musk himself has acknowledged. During this period, life on Mars would begin within sealed habitats and protective domes, with early settlers exploring the surface in specially designed suits. Over time, as technology advances and we better understand the Martian environment, these conditions will gradually improve, evolving from mere survival to a new kind of normal life on another world. So, what do you think about SpaceX's Mars program? Does it excite you as much as it does us? If it does, drop a "Go SpaceX" in the comments to show your support. Now, let's turn our eyes to Russia. Because of the prolonged war, the country's space budget has been severely constrained, so much so that President Putin has just approved a plan to literally turn Russian spacecraft into flying billboards to make extra money. More specifically, the Russian state space corporation, Roscosmos, may soon start selling advertising space on its spacecraft to offset the funding shortfall. Late last month, Putin signed amendments to the federal laws on advertising and space activities, officially allowing ads to be placed on spacecraft. This isn't entirely new, though. The Russian State Duma, dominated by Putin's loyalists, had already passed these amendments earlier. According to Roscosmos, starting January 1st, 2026, the agency will be authorized to display advertisements on space objects owned by both the state corporation and the Russian Federation itself.